Jenna adjusted her hoodie as she stepped into the gas station convenience store. It was a quiet Saturday morning in the suburbs. Cloudy skies, damp pavement, and not a single plan except grabbing chips before heading to her friend's house. At 15, she looked like any ordinary teenager, a bit distracted, earbuds in, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. She wandered the aisles, grabbed a soda and a bag of sour cream chips, and headed to the counter. The cashier, a stocky older man with a permanent frown, eyed her with mild suspicion. Still, she paid and thanked him before turning toward the door. Just then, another customer entered, brushing past her and knocking something from a shelf. A loud clatter echoed. The man looked back, frowned, and suddenly turned to the cashier. "She stole something," he said casually, pointing at Jenna. Jenna froze. "What? I didn't." The cashier didn't hesitate. "Hey, you, stop right there." Before she could explain, a uniformed police officer entered the store. He must have been parked outside. Within seconds he was in front of her. "What's going on here?" the cop asked. "She tried to steal," the cashier insisted. "No, I didn't." Jenna's voice cracked. "You can check my stuff." The officer looked her over, unimpressed. "You kids always have an excuse." "My mom's in the military," Jenna said, panic rising. "She'll fix this. You can't just—" That made the officer smirk. "Oh yeah? What is she, a desk sergeant? She's in special forces." He burst out laughing. "Right. And I'm a Navy SEAL." Jenna's hands were shaking as he reached for his cuffs. Outside, an unmarked black SUV rolled to a slow stop at the curb. The unmarked black SUV idled outside, engine humming low like a beast waiting to be unleashed. Inside the gas station, Jenna stood frozen, her hands half raised as the officer reached for his cuffs. The cashier looked smug, arms crossed, satisfied with how quickly things were going his way. "I told you," Jenna said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "She's coming," the cop chuckled again. "Let me guess, she's in the CIA too, maybe the Avengers?" A deep sense of humiliation settled in Jenna's chest. This wasn't just about the accusation now. It was the dismissal, the assumption that a teenage girl like her couldn't possibly be telling the truth. Then the gas station door swung open. The bell above barely had time to chime before a figure stepped through. A woman in full tactical uniform, combat boots, sharp shoulders, insignias glinting under the fluorescent lights. Her hair was pulled back into a tight bun. Her expression was unreadable, eyes sharp and scanning the scene instantly. "Jenna," she said, voice low but commanding. Jenna exhaled with relief. "Mom." The officer's face fell. His hands slowly dropped away from the cuffs. The woman's gaze snapped to him. "Did you touch her?" "No ma'am, I was just following protocol," he stammered. The cashier stepped back, suddenly less sure of himself. She was acting suspicious. "Did you check the security footage?" The woman interrupted, her voice like steel. Silence. Jenna's mom stepped forward. "I'm Master Sergeant Olivia Cade, U.S. Special Forces, and if you so much as put a hand on my daughter again without cause, you'll answer to more than just me." The room went still. No one laughed now. Outside, a second black SUV pulled up. The second black SUV parked with deliberate calm, and two more figures stepped out, both in uniform, both exuding quiet authority. They remained by the vehicle, watching the scene unfold through the gas station windows like silent sentinels. Inside, Master Sergeant Olivia Cade kept her gaze fixed on the officer, who suddenly seemed very unsure of himself. "I asked a question," she said again. "Did anyone check the footage before accusing my daughter?" The cashier opened his mouth, then closed it. No, but I saw her standing near the shelves, and that man said—" "She was accused without proof," Olivia said, cutting him off. "That's not how justice works. Roll the cameras." The officer glanced nervously at the cashier. "Do you have a back office?" "Yes, but—" "No buts," Olivia snapped. "Either we check the tape, or I escalate this to internal affairs and civilian oversight. I'm giving you a chance to handle this the right way." The cashier, now visibly sweating, scurried into the back. The officer followed, shooting Jenna a fleeting glance. One that wasn't smug anymore, just anxious. Jenna sat on a bench near the window, her mother standing beside her like a shield. "You okay?" Olivia asked, her tone softening. Jenna nodded slowly. "They didn't believe me. They rarely do," Olivia said. "But that's why we train to stand tall." A few minutes later the officer returned. His face said everything. "Ma'am," he said, barely meeting Olivia's eyes. "We reviewed the footage. Jenna didn't take anything. The accusation was false." Jenna blinked, not sure whether to feel relief or rage. "You will issue a formal apology," Olivia said. "And you will do it properly." The door creaked open again. A local news crew stepped in, cameras already rolling. The room fell into a stunned silence as the news crew entered, camera lights blinking, microphones raised. The officer instinctively stepped back, glancing nervously at Olivia. She didn't flinch. "Master Sergeant Cade," the lead reporter greeted. "We heard about an incident involving your daughter. Would you like to comment?" Olivia's jaw tightened. Only if the officer here would like to begin, with an apology. All eyes turned to him. He looked at Jenna, then at the camera, and then at Olivia again. His voice faltered at first, but he straightened himself and spoke. "I want to apologize," he said, "to Jenna Cade for assuming guilt without evidence. It was wrong, I should have followed proper procedure, and I deeply regret the distress I caused." Jenna looked at her mom, then at the camera. She wanted to say something too. Her voice trembled but held strength. "This happens a lot more than people think," she said. "Sometimes it's not about stealing, it's about how you look, or your age, or how people assume things about you. I didn't do anything wrong, but I was treated like I had—" The reporter nodded slowly. "And your mom?" Olivia stepped forward. "I've led operations in war zones, trained elite teams, and served this country for over 2 decades. But none of that mattered today when my daughter was profiled. We can do better, starting by listening before accusing." The officer lowered his head, ashamed. The cashier mumbled something that sounded like regret. Outside, a small crowd had gathered, watching the news unfold on phone screens and through the gas station windows. As the camera pulled back, Jenna stood beside her mom, taller than before. Not just because justice had been served, but because she had found her voice. By the time the news van rolled away and the SUVs drove off, the gas station was buzzing online. The video clip of Olivia Cade walking in, boots pounding, voice unwavering, had already gone viral. People were reposting, reacting, and calling out the injustice. Jenna sat quietly beside her mom in the SUV as they drove home. She stared out the window, phone buzzing in her pocket with messages from classmates, old friends, and even strangers. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked gently, glancing at her daughter. Jenna nodded, then shook her head. "I didn't think they'd actually cuff me. They thought you were powerless," Olivia said. "They underestimated you." Jenna looked down at her hands. "I was scared." "Good," Olivia replied softly. "That means you're human. But you didn't crumble, and that matters." When they pulled into the driveway, a small group of neighbors stood outside. One older woman handed Jenna a card. "For being brave," she said, "and for having a mom like that." Jenna managed a smile, overwhelmed but grateful. She went inside, kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto the couch. Her mom sat across from her watching. "You're going to have to talk to someone about all this," Olivia said. "I know. Probably the school too. They've seen the video." "They have," Olivia confirmed. "And they want you to speak at the next student forum." Jenna's eyes widened. "Me? You?" her mother said. "This isn't just about today, it's about every kid who's been unfairly judged." Jenna leaned back, letting the moment sink in. She'd gone from being falsely accused to becoming the face of something bigger. Outside, the evening sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow through the living room window. The school auditorium was packed. Students filled every seat, teachers lined the walls, and even a few parents had shown up after hearing about the incident on the news. A podium stood at the front, simple but intimidating under the spotlight. Jenna stood backstage, hands clammy, heart pounding. She could hear the chatter of hundreds of voices just beyond the curtain. For a second she wished she was anywhere else. Her mom's voice echoed in her mind. "This isn't just about today. It's about every kid who's been unfairly judged." Principal Monroe stepped up to the microphone. "Today we welcome a student who reminded all of us why assumptions can be dangerous, and why courage matters. Please give a warm welcome to Jenna Cade." The applause hit her like a wave. Jenna took a deep breath and walked out, spine straight, each step more certain than the last. She reached the mic and looked out into the sea of faces, some supportive, some skeptical. "My name is Jenna," she began. "A few days ago I was accused of stealing. I didn't, but no one asked questions. They just assumed." The room fell quiet. "My mom showed up before things went too far, and it changed everything. But not everyone has a mom who wears a uniform or drives an SUV. What if she hadn't come?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to say don't jump to conclusions. Ask, listen, look at people, not stereotypes." She paused, then smiled softly. "We all deserve that much." The applause this time was louder, deeper, earned. Backstage, Olivia waited, arms crossed but eyes glistening with pride. "You did good, soldier," she whispered when Jenna stepped down. By Monday morning, the school was different. Jenna walked through the halls and noticed students looking at her, not with suspicion or judgment, but curiosity. Some nodded in quiet respect. A few even smiled. One girl from her history class handed her a folded note between periods. It read, "Thanks for speaking up. Something similar happened to my brother." Word was spreading. Not just at school but online too. Clips from Jenna's assembly speech had been uploaded by students, and were now circulating on social media. Hashtags like #BelieveBeforeBlame and #JennaCade started trending. People shared stories of being misjudged, some recent, some decades old. Jenna scrolled through them, both stunned and inspired. In her next class, her teacher paused mid-lesson. "Before we continue," she said, "I want to acknowledge what Jenna did on Friday. That took bravery, and it reminded us how important it is to lead with facts, not fear." A slow clap started from the back of the room. Jenna turned red, but she didn't shy away. Not anymore. At lunch, she was approached by a few younger students. "Can you help us start a club?" one asked. "For students who've been treated unfairly. We want a space where people can talk." Jenna blinked, surprised. "Yeah, I'd love that." She and the group sat down and started brainstorming. Names, goals, plans. Her mom had always told her leadership isn't about titles but action. And here she was, leading something real. Later that night, Olivia tucked a small envelope into Jenna's backpack. Inside was a patch, olive green with a silver hawk. It read, "Daughter of a warrior, voice of her own." Jenna smiled when she found it. This wasn't just her mom's legacy anymore, it was hers too. Later that week, a formal letter arrived addressed to Master Sergeant Olivia Cade. It wasn't from the school, it was from the city's Internal Affairs Division. Jenna spotted the envelope on the kitchen table, marked confidential, and handed it over to her mom with wide eyes. "What is it?" she asked. Olivia opened it carefully, scanning the text. Her expression stayed unreadable as she read, then finally let out a long breath. "They're launching a review," she said, "of the officer who cuffed you without probable cause." Jenna blinked. "Wait, he's really being investigated?" "Yes. I filed an official complaint. I didn't do it to punish him. I did it to hold him accountable, and to make sure no other kid gets treated like you did." Jenna nodded slowly, the weight of it settling in. "What'll happen to him?" "That's up to the department. He'll be interviewed, and if the investigation finds misconduct, he could face suspension or retraining." "And the cashier?" Olivia smirked. "Let's just say his Yelp page isn't looking too good these days." Jenna laughed, and for the first time since the incident, she felt lighter. Later that afternoon, Olivia received a call from the officer himself. She put it on speaker. "Ma'am," he began, voice stiff, "I want to apologize again for what I did. I've been asked to take part in a community outreach program, and I'm willing. I'd like to do better." Olivia glanced at Jenna, then said, "Then start by listening." He paused. "Can I speak to your daughter?" Jenna hesitated, then took the phone. "Hi," she said. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "You didn't deserve that." "I know," she replied. "But if you really mean it, help others see it too." The line was quiet. "Then I will." Weeks passed, and what had started as a moment of humiliation turned into something far more powerful. Jenna's story became part of a city-wide conversation. Community centers began hosting forums on youth rights and racial bias. Olivia was invited to speak at a law enforcement seminar, and Jenna, she became the voice of a new student movement. The club she helped start was officially recognized by the school, Vox, Latin for voice. It stood for Voice of the Unheard. They met every Thursday in the library, where students from all backgrounds shared stories, discussed justice, and learned how to advocate for themselves and others. One Thursday, the officer who had cuffed Jenna showed up. Students went silent when he walked in. Jenna stood slowly, unsure what to expect. But he raised his hands, not in defense, but peace. "I'm not here to talk," he said. "I'm here to listen." He sat in the back, and for the next hour he heard stories, real, raw, and honest. Not just from Jenna, but from others who'd been misjudged, profiled, or ignored. When the session ended, he approached Jenna and said, "You didn't just change my perspective, you gave me something to fix." That night, Jenna walked home feeling something she hadn't expected: peace. She found her mom on the porch sipping tea. "He came," Jenna said. "I know," Olivia replied. "Word travels fast, people are actually changing, because someone stood up and made them look." Jenna sat beside her mom. The sky above them was dark but clear, the stars glowing bright. "I used to think I needed you to fight for me," she said, "but now, I think I can fight too." Olivia smiled, her voice quiet. "You always could. You just didn't know it yet." Graduation day came with clear skies and a gentle breeze, one of those rare days that felt like a movie ending. Students buzzed around in caps and gowns, posing for photos, laughing, shouting over the blaring announcements echoing from the stage. Jenna stood backstage, robe neatly pressed, her Vox patch sewn discreetly into the corner. It wasn't official, but it meant more than any school emblem ever could. Principal Monroe stepped up to the mic. Before we begin our ceremony, we want to recognize a student whose voice sparked real change within our school and our community. The crowd quieted. She reminded us that justice starts with courage. Please welcome Jenna Cade. Thunderous applause shook the bleachers as Jenna stepped forward. Her speech was short, honest, powerful, and deeply personal. When I was cuffed without cause, she said, I thought it would be the worst moment of my life, but it turned into the moment I found out who I was, not just the daughter of someone powerful, but someone with power of her own. She looked at the crowd. We all have a voice. Don't wait for permission to use it. When she stepped down, Olivia stood in the front row, in uniform, wiping away a proud tear. After the ceremony, reporters, students, and even staff gathered around to shake her hand. But it was a little girl, maybe 12, who walked up quietly and said, They used to treat me like I didn't matter, but now, I think I do. Jenna smiled and knelt to her level. You always mattered, you just needed someone to remind you. As the sun set and the campus emptied out, Jenna and Olivia stood side by side watching the flag lower. Not just the daughter of a warrior anymore. Jenna had become one herself.